What if I told you she never loved you? Not really, not the way you imagined. You remember her eyes, the softness in her voice, the warmth in her smile. It felt real, sacred, eternal. But Nietzsche, he whispers something cruel. When a woman says, "I love you," she means love me. This is not hatred, not an attack on women. This is the dismantling of illusion, because the most dangerous lies are not the ones told by others, but the ones we whisper to ourselves in love. Who is the actress and who is the audience? Who writes the script and who obeys it without question? Nietzsche was never a romantic. He was a surgeon of the soul, cutting fantasies with a scalpel of clarity. He did not see tenderness, he saw masks, he saw power, he saw survival disguised as affection. She doesn't deceive you because she's cruel. Nietzsche might say she deceives you because you need the lie. Here is a bitter truth. Men do not fall in love with women. They fall in love with the idea of women, with the fantasy, with the illusion of being chosen, of being needed, of being special. But beneath that illusion, Nietzsche found a pattern. The gaze that seduces is not always filled with love. Sometimes it is a mirror reflecting your hunger, not her heart. You thought she loved you, but perhaps she only loved how you looked at her. What if the smiles, the tears, the whispers were not manipulations but strategies? You thought it was love. Nietzsche says it was theater in a world where women were denied overt power. What tools remained? Beauty, grace, emotion, not to dominate through force, but to guide, to bend, to survive. A woman crying is not always in pain. Sometimes it's survival, a quiet victory in a silent war. Nietzsche never claimed women lie by nature. He claimed they were forced to perform, to wear masks, to speak in riddles, because direct power was never theirs to hold. What remains is the power of impression, the art of seduction, the dance of ambiguity. And here's the darkest truth. We men don't just fall for the illusion. We crave it, we need it, we feed it willingly. Why? Because the truth is cold, empty, and often lonely, but the lie is beautiful. It whispers, you matter. You are chosen, you are hers. Nietzsche believed that truth is unbearable, that we would rather be comforted than awakened. And nowhere is that more true than in love. So when a woman crafts her mask of sweetness, of loyalty, of innocence, it is not always deception. It is alchemy. It is the transformation of fear into beauty, of uncertainty into certainty. And you play along not because you're blind, but because you're desperate to believe. This is not her betrayal. This is your collusion. He wanted her to be pure. You needed her to be faithful. You chose to close your eyes because to see clearly is to see the abyss. And Nietzsche, he stared into that abyss and found a smile wearing someone else's face. So why does this matter? Because as long as you remain asleep in the dream of idealized love, you are not loving a woman. You are loving a fantasy, and a fantasy can never love you. Back to truly love is not to adore the perfect image. It is to see the flaws, the fear, the mask, and love through them. Nietzsche's warning is not against women. It is a call to awaken, to tear down false gods, to step down from the altar and walk among equals. Eyes open. This is your moment of clarity, not to hate, not to reject, but to understand. She never deceived you. You deceived yourself. Now, if you're ready to see what lies beneath the mask, if you're ready to understand the ancient dance between illusion and truth, then stay with me, because what comes next will change the way you see love forever. Nietzsche did not see women as liars in the moral sense. He saw them as necessary illusionists in a world forged by men dominated by brute strength, linear logic, and overt power. Women were not given swords, so they learned to wield shadows. They became artists of ambiguity, virtuosos of emotional nuance, and above all, masters of illusion. Not out of malice, but out of necessity. It was not wickedness, it was adaptation. When Nietzsche wrote, "Woman is not yet capable of friendship, women are still cats and birds, or at best cows," he was not mocking. He was dissecting the psychological architecture society had built around them in a world where open confrontation belonged to men. Women were shaped consciously or not to. In through subtlety, they influenced with softness, manipulated with beauty, conquered not by sword but by smile. Their battlefield is not the arena but the heart. Their weapons are not fists but feelings. And their victories, they are not declared. They are felt in the shift of silence, in the rhythm of tears, in the echo of a gaze. Nietzsche saw this not as weakness, but as a different kind of strength. A woman's ability to deceive is not her flaw, it is her genius. Her illusions are not clumsy lies, but delicate performances crafted with the precision of a poet and the instincts of a survivor. She does not challenge reality head-on. She bends it gently like wind, carving stone like water, shaping time. To Nietzsche, this is not a moral failure but an evolutionary triumph. Man dominates by force, woman seduces by suggestion, man imposes truth, woman evokes belief. And in this tension, Nietzsche glimpsed a deeper metaphysical truth that all of life, not just woman, is built upon appearance. Reality itself is not solid but shimmering. It is a mask worn by chaos, a beautiful veil spun over the void to make existence bearable. In that sense, woman is not the enemy of truth. She is its highest aesthetic. The problem, Nietzsche says, is not that women lie, but that men believe those lies literally. The tragedy is not that deception exists, but that we mistake the dance for the destination. A woman's charm is her power, and her power is performance. She doesn't love you for who you are. She loves you for how you make her feel, how you reflect her own myth, and you fall in love not with her, but with the story she lets you tell yourself. Nietzsche's insight is not misogyny, it is mythology. He does not condemn women. He elevates them as symbols of life's necessary illusions in a world too raw, too brutal, too absurd to bear. Naked woman steps onto the stage. She performs, she soothes, she beautifies the unbearable. She is not man's enemy. She is his mirror, not the destroyer of ideals, but the painter of them in her lies. They are not sins, they are spells. They are the very threads that keep the dream of love alive. The great tragedy Nietzsche implies is not that women deceive, but that men want to be deceived. The illusion is not imposed, it is invited. It is not an act of war, but a dance of complicity. Every layer of disguise a woman wears is woven from threads a man offers her willingly. Her beauty is sculpted by his gaze. Her mystery is deepened by his projections. Her charm is a reflection of his hunger, his longing to believe that someone somewhere was made to complete him. And so Nietzsche begins tearing away the veils, not to expose women, but to awaken men, to force the question, what do you really fall in love with, the person or the performance, the soul or the story? Because when a man says he loves a woman, more often than not, he is in love with the version of himself that she reflects. She becomes his mirror, his canvas, a projection of his ideals, his fantasies, his desperate need to feel desired. Her smile is his validation. Her affection is his proof of worth. He does not want her to be real. He wants her to be consistent with the script he's written in his head. But reality does not follow that script. A real woman is not a fairy tale. She is chaos and contradiction. She is soft and sharp, nurturing and cruel, present and unknowable. And the moment she steps off the pedestal, the illusion collapses, and with it, the man's borrowed sense of self. Nietzsche's philosophy here is brutal, not because it is cruel, but because it is clear. He tells us, you do not love her. You love your delusion of her, and perhaps, if you're honest, you fear what lies behind her mask. not because it hides her, but because it reveals you, your need, your fear of being alone, your hunger for meaning dressed in skin. This is why Nietzsche admired the woman's lie, not for its falsehood, but for its artistry. He saw her not as a manipulator, but as an existential actress playing a part society wrote for her on a stage built by male law name. And in this tragic theater, both genders suffer. The woman must hide her power behind softness, her ambition behind affection. The man must hide his vulnerability behind domination, his insecurity behind worship. Both wear masks, both perform, and neither knows who wrote the script. To Nietzsche, the only liberation is to tear it all down, to stop clinging to romantic myths, to stop worshiping love as salvation, to face it. Ask the raw, untamed, uncomfortable truth that no one will complete you, no one was made for you, that love is not a destiny, it is a decision. And beneath every illusion we call romance lies a wound we've never dared to confront, the wound of being alone in a world that does not care, a world where no amount of affection can fill the existential void. A world where perhaps the greatest act of love is not to lose yourself in another, but to find yourself despite them. Once the veil is torn, once the illusion of romantic salvation crumbles in your hands like dust, what remains? Silence, emptiness, a haunting stillness that few dare to face. And this is the moment Nietzsche invites you into, not to despair, but to begin, because in that silence lies the truth. You are always alone, not abandoned, not unloved, simply independent by design. Every myth you clung to that love would complete you was never a promise of life, but a denial of your own strength. The philosopher does not weep in the face of solitude. He builds himself inside it. Nietzsche dares you stop seeking in others what only you can forge in yourself: power, depth, meaning. These do not come from romance or recognition. They arise from confrontation with your own abyss. And yes, that abyss is terrifying because the ego trembles when there's no one left to mirror it, no praise to validate it, no lover to anesthetize its fear of vanishing. But that fear, that is the threshold of awakening. The very moment you stop being someone's reflection, you become real. This is what Nietzsche means by the Übermensch, the higher man, the self-overcoming soul, not someone who dominates others, but someone who no longer needs them to feel whole, someone who walks the desert of existence with eyes wide open, unshielded by illusion, unafraid of the void, because he has learned the void is not the enemy. It is the birthplace of inner freedom. Imagine this. You no longer chase affection like a beggar. You no longer edit yourself to be loved. You no longer ask, do they love me? You ask, do I honor who I am? That is the shift from dependence to dignity, from romantic slavery to existential sovereignty. Nietzsche does not ask you to reject love. He asks you to reject illusion, to meet others not as saviors but as companions on a path that neither begins nor ends with them, and in doing so your love becomes cleaner, dear sir, real. Not a bargain, not a performance, not a mutual addiction disguised as intimacy, but two whole beings standing side by side, not needing but choosing. And if such love is rare, so be it. The price of truth is often loneliness, but the reward is self-respect. You stop pretending, you stop begging, you start becoming, and in that becoming you find a peace no romance could ever give. The peace of knowing that even if everyone leaves, you remain. Love is not a reward for obedience. It does not come because you followed the rules. It is not given to those who smile at the right time or those who shrink themselves to fit another's dream. Nietzsche warns us the modern mind has turned love into a deal, a product, a shallow echo of deeper fears. We chase love not because we are full, but because we are afraid of what we lack. And so in desperation we trade freedom for affection. We become the good boy, the perfect partner, the one who pleases. But with every compromise, something sacred fades, our authenticity. Nietzsche does not tell us to reject love. He calls us to rebel against this sickness, not by walking away from love, but by redefining it. What if love were not comfort but fire, not safety but transformation? Imagine a love that doesn't soothe you but calls you forward, not to rest but to rise, to grow, to burn, to break, to rebuild. A love that looks at you and says, I see not who you are but who you could become, and I refuse to let you rot in comfort. This is not the love of fairy tales, it is the love of warriors, of those who have faced their own darkness and now dared to meet another, not as a savior, but as a mirror. This kind of love is not for the weak. It does not promise happiness, it demands honesty. It pulls out the parts of you you'd rather keep hidden, and it may not last, but if it's real, you will not be the same. Nietzsche is clear. Love is not the end. It is the trial, the crucible, the flame where ego burns, illusions dissolve, and spirit is forged. In this kind of love, there are no victims, no martyrs, only soul, standing tall in their truth. Here lies the paradox. True love begins when you no longer need it, when you could leave at any moment but choose to stay, not out of fear, not out of need, but from freedom. Nietzsche does not despise love. He honors it, but only the kind of love that does not imprison, that does not demand obedience, that does not feed on insecurity. The love that makes you more, not less. The love that says, I will not complete you, I will challenge you to complete yourself. This is not romantic, it is raw, it is violent, it is divine, and it is rare, because few are brave enough to love without illusion. Few are strong enough to hold love in one hand and freedom in the other. But if you are one of them, if you can walk into love not to be saved, but to be sharpened, then you have passed the final test. You have not only loved, you have transcended. You were not born to be adored. You were not placed on this earth to be accepted, to be liked, to be completed by another. You were born to become, to tear through the illusions the world wrapped around you, to unlearn the lies that dressed obedience as virtue and weakness as romance. Nietzsche does not whisper this truth. He roars it. And if you've made it this far, you can feel it echoing in your bones. They told you love was the goal, that if you were good enough, pretty enough, soft enough, agreeable enough, someone would arrive and make you whole. That was the first lie. You are never meant to be completed. You are not a puzzle. You are fire. You are will. You are becoming, and love, if it is to mean anything at all, must bow before that becoming, not smother it. But most people don't want that truth. They want comfort, a soft prison made of compliments and quiet compromises. Nietzsche sees it clearly. This is not love. It is the death of the self, a slow suicide of the soul traded for the illusion of safety. He offers no sweet words, only a challenge. Can you love without losing yourself? Can you enter the chaos of intimacy, the pull of passion, the hunger of longing, and still remain sovereign, still hold your truth, still burn with your own fire, still walk your own path? If not, then what you have is not love. It is dependency, a drug, a beautiful distraction. Real love, the kind Nietzsche points to, is dangerous. It threatens the ego, it strips away illusions, it demands transformation, not because the other person changes you, but because in their presence, you choose to rise, not to please, not to be wanted, but to evolve, to stand tall, fully seen, yet still fully your own. This message is not for every way. Most will resist. They are still addicted to the lie. But you, if something in you aches, if your skin feels too tight for the soul it holds, if you know the love you've been sold is too small for the spirit you're becoming, then listen. You are not here to be loved. You are here to be free. And only from that freedom, only from the summit of your own self-conquest, can love descend as an equal, not to possess you, not to save you, but to walk beside you. Wild, untamed, sovereign, two flames choosing each other without need, without illusion, without fear. This is the revolution Nietzsche dared to speak. This is your invitation. So walk away from the false, burn the fantasies, stand naked in the raw truth of who you are becoming. And if love comes, let it find you already free. That is the kind of love worth living for and the only one worth dying for. Now it's your turn to answer. Have you ever loved in a way that cost you your freedom? Or have you stood alone and found a love that honored your truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. True love begins after freedom. Let's see how many of us are waking up.